We're starting a new series today in Proverbs. We'll be here for the next few months through the summertime. I'm curious to know if any one of you are like me. I am a forgetful person, which means I forget where I put things, and I'm always searching, always looking for something. A hat, a pair of sunglasses, car keys, whatever it may be. I feel like my life is just a constant search for something I should know where it is, but of course I don't. I don't know if any of you feel that way, but it's like the constant thing. And it's interesting because that reality about me, that's kind of how life can be for me sometimes, even on the bigger scale, when I'm looking for something more important than car keys, when I really want to know how to live life well and how to make the right decision in any given moment. I feel like I've lost my car keys. I'm searching for the thing I know I should know or I want to know, but I just don't. I just don't know where it's at or what I should do. What do I do now? We ask that question all the time, don't we? It could be about anything in your life. It can be any time in your life, but what do I do now? I'm facing something big or small, and I want to know what to do, right? Because I think we all have that sense of wanting to live life well, right? Everybody has that. I know the people in this room have that, and even the people who it seems like they've given up on life, I think they still have that desire to live life well, but they've quit for whatever reason. Maybe they think they can't or they don't know how, but man, a life that is lived well, to be skilled at doing life, we want that, don't we? It's something we're searching for all the time. So Proverbs is going to lead us into that reality. Look at Proverbs 1 and 2. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, and look at the first three words of verse 2. To know wisdom. So Solomon is writing under God's authority to us about that statement right there, to know wisdom. Now, as we get into this, searching for wisdom, wanting to live life well, this thing that we all aspire to, we're about to get into this book that's going to take us there and outline what that means for us. Skilled living. It is accessible. Proverbs is going to lead the way. But first of all, let's look at the man himself who wrote it. We already heard 1 Kings 3 and this story of the encounter of Solomon and God. And do you remember what Solomon was saying and what he was asking God for? Right? God appears to him as he's offering these sacrifices, and God says, I'll give you whatever you want. Man, that's pretty great. When God offers that, that means something, right? And what does Solomon say? God, I don't know anything. I don't know how to go out. I don't know where I'm going. I know nothing. I need from you wisdom to take this responsibility of ruling your people and do it well. I'm going to do it in a way that pleases you. So immediately we resonate with that, right? I don't know anything. God, I want to do this well. How do we get there? And so that's what he's looking for. And God says, great, I'll give that to you. I'll give you what you want. I'll help you know how to live well and rule these people. Oh, and you also get wealth and respect and all that. And I remember reading that as a teenager thinking, man, that was a cheat code right there, right? Solomon asked for the wisdom and still got the wealth and the respect and the women and all the other stuff, right? But anyway, he asked for that thing that is so fundamental, that all of us, I think, deep inside really desire. And guess what? God gave it to him, right? When God said, I'll give it to you, he meant it, and he did. And what we're going to see in Proverbs, and what I hope we see, the reality in Christ, is that he will give that to us. That desire to live well, to be skilled at life. God will teach you and give you what you need to actually do it. Well, let's keep reading then. So we know about Solomon and this man, and I think his attitude and his approach to God and how he's asking God for wisdom, I think that's all we're going to see how relevant that is for us later on. But let's look at this introduction to this book of Proverbs and see what it holds for us. So these proverbs are, verse 2, to know wisdom and instruction, to understand words of insight, to receive instruction in wise dealing, in righteousness and justice and equity, to give prudence to the simple, and knowledge and discretion to the youth. Let the wise hear and increase in learning, and the one who understands obtain guidance. To understand a proverb and a saying, the words of the wise and their riddles. Verse 7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. So two things are interesting to me about that introduction. Number one, there's a lot of words there, right? A lot of words. And what are they all saying to me? Are they just a bunch of synonyms that are poetically describing wisdom that really make no distinction? Or is it a bunch of words that really overlap and give us a good picture of this broad concept called wisdom? Right? So think of these words this way, because this is important that we get into this a little bit. I remember living in the Bahamas and looking out over the Caribbean Ocean, and it's vast and it's big, and sometimes it's dangerous and scary, sometimes it's peaceful and calm. But what I loved is how all the different colors of this water just stood out and made the ocean itself magnificent. And you didn't know when one color ended and where another color began, but all of the different shades of blue just caught your eye and captivated you. And I don't want us to miss what we're seeing here in Proverbs about these words and what they mean for us about wisdom and how we can be captivated by it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you a little cheat sheet on defining these words that we just saw, because it sounded a little bit like a word salad. And so let's parse through it. And what I'd like to do is define these words in the context of like a teacher-student kind of relationship. How many of you have ever been in a teaching context, whether it's you've taught a Sunday school or your kids in homeschool or you've trained people at work or whatever, you've had to teach somebody? How many of you? Yeah, good. Okay, so you get this. So let's go through some of these words and understand what they mean. So wisdom itself, that word is skilled living. Your whole life being able to handle it well and do exactly what pleases God. So then other words come in that begin to describe wisdom. One word is learning, right? The learning in the text simply means someone who is receptive. If you've ever taught somebody, you know the difference between the person who is checked out and doesn't care and the other person who's hanging on every word you have to say. Right? Learning is the receptive person. They're ready to receive anything you've got to tell them. And then there's knowledge, which sounds basic. We all know what knowledge is, right? But knowledge is knowing the truth. Now, you can tell somebody something, and they can hear you say it, but that doesn't mean that they know it, right? Knowing is you've gathered in the truth for yourself and you've embraced it. That's knowledge. Another word that you'll see in Proverbs is understanding or discernment. It's the same word, really. And discernment is being able to make sense of things. Now, that's a little different than knowledge, right? So the learner is receptive, they gather knowledge and they know the truth, but discernment and understanding is being able to make sense of how all of that truth works together and works in my life. So if you've ever tried to teach math to a kid, right, you can show them the concept, and here's how you do this problem. And when you give them the same problem, they can repeat it because you just told them how. But, weeks later, when the test comes and there's all different kinds of problems that you need all different kinds of concepts to do, all of a sudden they know nothing and they can't do it. You've seen that with your kids, right? That's the difference, right, between I know these concepts, but I don't know how to apply them to which problem. Well, discernment gives you that understanding to make sense of all the different truth and how it fits together. Discretion is another word we're going to hear in Proverbs, and that's more of the idea of just purposeful planning. Right? I'm using the knowledge to do something on purpose. Prudence is another word, and prudence is interesting because this idea is someone who's clever or shrewd. Do you remember when Solomon has these two women who are disputing about the baby that's theirs? And Solomon says, well, I'm just going to cut the baby in half and give you each a half of the baby. Now, who would think to say that or do that? Right, but solid, that's a shrewd, a clever way to see things. It's going outside of normal logic. It's going beyond the way other people think to see something in a different perspective. That's prudence, and that's part of what wisdom does. And then lastly, there's the word instruction, which itself is not necessarily telling somebody something. Instruction in the Proverbs is actually correction, right? It's how to fix a problem so that you can do it right. So that's what all of these words kind of mean, and hopefully you can contain all that in your head. You guys are smart, but all of those words have a little bit of a distinct meaning, but they all overlap to give us this big, beautiful ocean of wisdom that we can know and enjoy. So let's camp out here on verse 7 for a minute. Because as we look at all that's involved in wisdom, all those important words about how wisdom is gathered and contained and used, we have to first look at the source of wisdom. Where's wisdom coming from? And of course, you know the answer. But look at what it says here in verse 7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. So if we search for wisdom, what we've already seen is that, first of all, wisdom can be found. Wisdom is accessible, no matter how elusive it may seem in your life. What we've already learned in these verses is that it's there for the taking. And the reason it's there for the taking is because there's a God who has all wisdom, and there are a bunch of people who have no wisdom, but this God is interested in bestowing that wisdom. He's interested in delivering it to you, resourcing you with it. So there's access. Living well is not just a pipe dream, but here's the key, and this is critical, because there's not just any way to access this wisdom that God has and that we don't. The key is verse 7, the fear of the Lord. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. So wisdom is God's very nature, and no matter how smart or experienced we think we are, it will come from him or it won't come at all. And we know that. So since wisdom is received and not simply achieved by being smart, then we must come to grips with how it will be received and tapped into that. And that word there, fear, is key. We tap into God's wisdom, and it begins with fear of the Lord. Now, fear is a word we don't like. Fear is a word we often avoid, right? Perfect love casts out fear. Yes, that's true. But fear directed at God is a different kind of thing. And to understand this is important because I actually Google searched this verse, Proverbs 1:7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. And when you look at all the images and things that come up surrounding that idea, what you see is lots of beautiful sunsets. And one picture had the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge with a calm, peaceful lake and a nice little sailboat on the side of it. And everything seemed just peaceful and serene and bliss. Well, until I got to about the bottom of the page, I was quite disturbed. But finally, searching through the fear of the Lord, image after image after image, I came to the picture of this lion, a huge lion, just with the stare. It wasn't growling, roaring, anything. Claws weren't showing. It was just the stare of the eyes of this lion. And suddenly I was like, oh, okay. Now I think we're starting to get a little closer to what that idea of fear really means. Listen. The fear of the Lord needs to remind us that God is fearsome. That's who he is. There's a place for peace and serenity and calmness. That is true of God. But the fear of the Lord needs to bring a different image to our mind. And let's capture that image this morning. A fearsome God who brings things into focus. Because when I fear the Lord, number one, it begins to magnify how awesome and sovereign and beyond God really is. He is not tame. He cannot be controlled or handled by me. That's God. So the bigger he gets, that begins to then magnify how puny and powerless I truly am. how little I really contain and am incapable of in and of myself. And that's exactly what the fear of the Lord needs to do. It needs to magnify the relentless, fearsome, awesome God who stands over everything, and especially you. And in light of that, I'm puny. I've got nothing. You've heard the phrase, dumb as a box of rocks? That's me. That's me. So let fear settle in that way. Let fear bring us to our knees before God. Let fear bring us to that necessity of trust and flinging every hope and desire we have on Him. That's what fear is meant to do. That's why fear is good when it comes to God. Fear Him. And when we do, and He's magnified, and I'm seen for who I really am, now my eyes are open to the one who will truly give me wisdom. So what Solomon didn't know and what we do know is that wisdom from God, He's revealing it to us through Jesus Christ. That's who we have. We have a risen Savior who reveals the knowledge of God. So I want to show you how Jesus Christ shows up in Proverbs, because we're not going to see His name, but Proverbs, here we're going to have this book full of wise sayings, right? That's what Proverbs are. And what we're going to see is a bunch of principles about how life works. But some principles about your responsibilities and what you should be doing. And if you do those things, here's the likely outcome. Right? But again, these are just principles, not promises. Remember that. Proverbs are not promises about what must be true if you follow the right formula or if you make the right choices. That's not what we're looking at here. To see Proverbs and to see Christ overlaid on every page is to realize, oh, I'm not looking for knowing what to do. I'm looking for who it is that I live with, because He's the one who actually shows me what to do. Right? The outcome is truly in His hands, not in me doing the right thing. Sorry, I had it on the slide, but I'll just read it to you here. 1 Corinthians chapter 1. Listen to this. For Jews demand signs and Greeks seek wisdom, but we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and folly to Gentiles. But those who are called, both Jews and Greeks, Christ, the power of God and the wisdom of God. Christ is the power and the wisdom of God. It says it again in Colossians chapter 2. That their hearts may be encouraged, being knit together in love, to reach all the riches of full assurance of understanding and the knowledge of God's mystery, which is Christ, in whom are hidden all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. All that God has to offer you is available in Jesus Christ. He is the wisdom and the knowledge and the power of God. The one who dwells in you contains that. He is that. So the source of our wisdom is not out there. It's not about, oh God, what do I do? The source of our wisdom is about, oh God, look at what you've given me. Look at whom you have given me. Now I'm set up to live well. So being skilled at life is not making all the right choices so that all the right things happen to me. Being skilled at life is staying in step with Jesus, trusting His footwork to walk through life. Just yesterday, I was at a wedding. It was a good wedding, wasn't it? And the bride and the groom were excellent dancers, unlike me. And so they're up there and they're doing their dance, and you just know that they know what they're doing. But in a dance, somebody has to lead, and the footwork has to match, or else you're going to be tripping and stumbling all over yourself. And that's the beautiful thing about what Jesus does, is He's leading that dance. His footwork is perfect. And He will call us and show us how to match His footwork, so to speak. That's how we are sourced with wisdom. It's in Christ as He carries us along step by step by step. Now, that's what we have. wisdom is resourced to us through Jesus Christ. But there's a little more that I want us to see. As we look through Proverbs over the next few months, there's something interesting that as we see wisdom in Jesus, wisdom is going to be something that is, in some sense, unavoidable. Flip over with me to Proverbs chapter 8. Not only can we know the source of wisdom, but we can know that wisdom is calling out to us. That's going to be a key here in Proverbs. It comes from God, but God's voice is loud and clear to us about wisdom, where it's coming from, and how we have it. Chapter 8, verses 1 through 11. Listen to these words. Does not wisdom call out? Does not understanding raise her voice? On the heights beside the way, at the crossroads, she takes her stand. Beside the gates in front of the town, at the entrance of the portals, she cries aloud, to you, O men, I call, and my cries to the children of man. O simple ones, learn prudence. O fools, learn sense. For I will speak noble things, and from my lips will come what is right. For my mouth will utter truth. Wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are righteous. There's nothing twisted or crooked in them. They are all straight to him who understands, and right to those who find knowledge. Take my instruction instead of silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is far better than jewels, and all that you may desire cannot compare with her. So I love how the Proverbs begins now to personify wisdom, which makes sense because it is about a person. It begins to personify wisdom as a voice crying out, not whispering, not just talking softly in a conversation in the house, but screaming out. And I love how it starts because at the beginning of chapter 8 it says wisdom is screaming in the heights and in the crossroads and at the gates and at the entrance of the city. So in the heights would probably refer to the place of worship. Often the place of worship was the elevated portion of the city. That's where they would build the temple, right? And then the crossroads and the gates, the place where people traveled and had to go to get anywhere. Those are all the places that wisdom is screaming at you. The places you're most likely to be, wisdom is there. It's calling out, pay attention. I love that because God is not hiding his wisdom. As elusive as it may seem, as much as I have to ask myself, what should I do now? Wisdom is not a treasure hunt without a map, right? Sometimes it feels that way, like I don't know even where to go to dig up wisdom. It's out there somewhere and I just got to find it. No, it's not a treasure hunt. God is screaming at us. So we may not embrace it, but it certainly can be heard. And so I love the reality of this is that as much as we may think, well, I'm the one looking and searching and hopefully I'll find it, what this shows us is that it's not so much that we're hunting wisdom, it's more like wisdom is hunting us. Isn't that good to know? God is pursuing. He's not hiding. Adam and Eve were the ones hiding in the bush. God was the one going after them. And I love that imagery because that's so much of what the Bible is telling us. God is always in pursuit. If anybody's hiding, it's not wisdom, it's us. So wisdom's calling out. It's calling your name. What came to mind when I was reading this was when we were in Washington, D.C. a couple years back. Just going up and down the mall area there and seeing the museums and everything else. It was just loads of people everywhere, right? Or there was one point where we were in a museum and we lost sight of Nilsa. Like suddenly we couldn't find her and she couldn't find us. And you know the terrifying moment that is as a parent, right? And so what do you think we did the moment we found out that Nilsa was missing? We started calling her name. Nilsa! Hey, Nilsa! I don't care who hears me. I don't care who's bothered by me shouting her name. I'm shouting her name because my hope is that she will hear my voice, the familiar voice, and respond to it. And I'm going to call as loud as I can to make sure that she hears my voice and knows where to go. Follow my voice. I'm here. I'm coming after you, Nilsa. And then we reunite. And, it's scary in that first moment of being reunited, but now it's secure. She heard our voice. We found her, she found us. And I think of God that way often, right? When I'm in the crowd with lots of noise and lots of people around and I don't know where I'm at, I don't have my bearings, I don't know what God is up to, guess what he's doing? He's calling out my name, and he's calling out your name all the time. But I can't hear him. Okay, keep listening. Keep listening. Because listen, the one who opens the eyes of the blind, Jesus, right? The one who opens the ears of the deaf, the one who opens the mouth of the mute so that they can speak, guess what he's doing? He's opening you up to his wisdom. He's crying out and making it so that you are able to hear and respond to him. So you can actually receive all the wisdom God has for you. Yeah, it's through Jesus. And that's why it's so valuable. Did you see verse 11? Wisdom is far better than jewels, and all that you may desire. All that you may desire. What is it? What do you want out of life? What do you want in your life? Every desire you have pales in comparison to what God is offering you in his wisdom through Jesus Christ. That is the way and the only way we will be skilled at living. But the last thing here that we see is that there's not just a source of wisdom in Jesus Christ that we can have and a call that we can hear, but there's also an urgency to wisdom, right? It's meant to for us to abide in it and to dwell there. But this is an urgent thing. And so look over with me to chapter 9. This is the last bit of introduction we'll look at, Proverbs 9. And we'll read verses 1 through 6 and then skip over to verse 13. So wisdom has built her house. She has hewn her 7 pillars. She has slaughtered her beasts. She has mixed her wine, and she has set her table. So there's this glorious, perfect dwelling place, this mansion, right, that wisdom has built. And everything is there. The table is set for people to feast at. And now look what happens. She has sent out her young women to call from the highest places in the town. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. To him who lacks sense, she says, come, eat of my bread and drink of the wine I have mixed. Leave your simple ways and live and walk in the way of insight. Please do it now. I'm opening up my home to you. Come and feast with me. Wisdom is practically begging us to come and join her here. Right? But that's not the only voice calling out. Look at verse 13 of chapter 9. The woman folly is loud. She is seductive and knows nothing. She sits at the door of her house. She takes the seat on the highest places of the town, calling to those who pass by, who are going straight on their way. Whoever is simple, let him turn in here. And to him who lacks sense, she says, stolen water is sweet, and the bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he does not know that the dead are there, that her guests are in the depth of Sheol. See, as much as God is pursuing us and calling aloud, he's not the only one, right? Our flesh has no clue what wisdom is. Our flesh only knows folly. And Satan, what he does is he's putting up the bullhorn to folly as she screams at us, right? And he just wants to magnify her voice and her sound in our life, and that's every day. You know it, right? You feel that every day. My flesh and the enemy is just calling out to me and telling me to do something other than what I know God wants. And so it's a battle, right? Your ears have to be in tune to the right thing. But the key towards wisdom's house and feasting with her is, I think it's our approach to Jesus and abiding in him. And this is what I mean by that. Your approach to Jesus should not be like my approach to doing home projects, right? So first of all, I'm not very skilled at home projects and being a handyman, okay? If you need details, ask my wife. But what I end up doing is, okay, I need to do something here. I really don't want to call the professional because professionals are expensive. So my approach is usually, well, I do a minimal amount of research, but I just dive in and I try to figure it out. And as I go, I'm figuring things out and I'm watching YouTube videos, and until I get stuck, I'm not really asking for help. But inevitably, and I say inevitably always, right, I get to the point where I'm beyond my capacity, right? There's no YouTube video for that. I have no idea how to creatively solve this problem. I cannot figure it out. And so I'm making a phone call. This is what happened last week. I'm trying to install, the fans and lights in our bathrooms, and I've gotten there, but now the electrical wiring is not what I expected it to be. So I had to call my friend to invite him over. Last second, hey, can you come over and help me with my lights? Right? I mean, it's like all of a sudden I need help, and hey, quickly, come help me. I mean, that's just how I do things, regrettably, for good or for bad or for whatever. But yeah, I'm just going to try to figure it out. And when I'm just at my wit's end, well, then I'll go ahead and get some help from somebody who knows what they're doing. I find that I live my life that way in lots of ways, beyond home projects, a lot more than I realize. Do you find yourself there? Well, I'm pretty smart, pretty experienced. I could probably figure my way through this relationship or whatever else is happening at work or whatever it may be. So we just kind of plunge in and try to figure it out and solve our own problems until we can't. Hey, God, I'm stuck. Can you come and help me now? Yeah. This passage in chapter 9 is showing us that the urgency we need to have in abiding with Jesus and having his wisdom is something completely different than what I've just described. We can't be the people trying to figure it out and calling on God when we get stuck. He is not a help desk, right? God is not there as our problem solver primarily. Yeah, he does solve problems. And our prayer life can reveal that, can't it? How you view God is, if you don't know how you view God, just look at your prayer life. If he's your problem solver, you're going to pray that way. Right? So the call then is, don't wait till you're stuck. Don't set out on your own in the sailboat and wait till the storm comes to be crying out to God. That's not wisdom. That's not what it's calling us to do. That's not realizing the source of wisdom. That's not seeing the value of wisdom. That's not feeling the urgency of how much we need wisdom from God. That's not our life. So rather than seeing God that way, it'd be better to see him as the guide who's leading us through a dark cave, a cave that is so dark and so vast that we are completely unable to navigate it. In fact, I'm not even going into the cave without this guide right in front of me. Have you guys ever been to Mammoth Cave? We went there a couple years back. It's pretty impressive, right? I mean, I don't know how many miles of caves, I forget, hundreds of miles of caves down in there. And it's nice because you can go into this cave and thankfully, they've already explored it. They've set out stairs for you and there are lights everywhere. So you kind of don't need a guide. You can kind of just walk through. But there's always that moment, right? There's always the moment when you're in the cave where they say, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to have all of you turn off your lights. Right? And I'm in this room and I see what's around me with the light, but suddenly you turn off all the lights. And in that cave, the expression, you can't see your hand in front of your face? Yeah, you literally cannot see your hand in front of your face. It is that dark. And suddenly what I thought I knew and all this comfort I had in going through this cave with all the lights and the paths and the stairs, it's gone, right? If I were actually to try to walk through this cave in complete darkness, I would be utterly hopeless. No chance. I'm not going to navigate the next step without tripping and falling. Do you see life that way? Are you so confident in yourself? Are you so skilled at how you've been able to do things in the past that you think, I'm generally good? Yeah, I'll cry out to God for wisdom when I'm stuck. And largely, though, I think I've got this. Of course, none of us would ever say that out loud, right? But Functionally, we kind of live that way a little bit, don't we? Yeah. Well, wisdom is calling out to us a different way. Wisdom is saying, follow the guide. Go into the cave and through the cave because he knows the way. He's been there before. He'll get you exactly where you need to go. Don't leave his side. That's what wisdom in Christ is calling us to do. That's what these Proverbs are for. The Proverbs are not a formula for good living. The Proverbs show us, he's given us a look at wisdom, and then he's going to guide us all the way through with what he's given us to know. That's Jesus. So, like Solomon, you and I are tasked with doing something beyond our capacity. Right? Lord, I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to go out or come in. I cannot rule these people without you showing me how. Yep, that's life. Solomon knew it. We need to know it. It's beyond our capacity. That life pleasing to God that we want, it seems out of reach sometimes, doesn't it? You feel that, don't you? I make so many mistakes. I say stupid things. I do stupid things. I feel like folly is more of a friend than wisdom sometimes. Yeah, I do. Because the number of times I mess up in every area of life, it's astounding. It's sad. It's frustrating, isn't it? And we all feel that. What should I do now? Am I going to get this right or wrong? Man, I hope I get it right. Man, I hope God is pleased with me. All these thoughts going through our head about how we live. But listen, Proverbs are here for us to know wisdom. Those first three verses in verse 2. Or the first three words in verse 2, right? To know wisdom. It's knowable. It's knowable because you know the one who has it. So Proverbs remind us that the only place to go is God. Handling life with skill will always start and always end with Jesus. So as we go through Proverbs, this is going to be key. Right? It's not about what you don't know or what you do know. That's not what wisdom is. At the heart of wisdom, it's who you need to know and who you already know. That's Jesus. He has what you need, what you want. So in our search for wisdom, it's going to be about who, not what. That has to stick in our minds. That is going to be the key to everything we look at over the next few months in this book as you read it. It's not about what you have, it's who you have. And isn't that good news? Isn't that good news? I will never know everything. No matter how much I walk with Jesus, I won't have all the answers. I won't always know what to do. But I will always know whom I have. Jesus will dwell with me and will dwell with you always as our Savior and the one with all authority and our guide through that cave. That's who he is and that's what he does. And so as you're frustrated by life, as you're searching for wisdom, and as you feel like you can't find it, remember that. Hold on to that reality. That's the key to unlocking Proverbs. So let's pray, and we'll sing another song. Christ is all, fittingly. But as you pray, just be thankful this morning, right? You have Jesus. You have wisdom at your fingertips because of him. He is the one with the key to unlock it. So let's just be thankful to him. Lord Jesus, I have to admit that I feel inept about life a lot of times. I feel like, Jesus, I'm searching for things that are right in front of me, and I can't even see it, Lord. I do that all the time, and I feel like sometimes I handle life that way. It's right in front of me, but I still can't even see it. I don't know what to do. I'm left with more questions than answers. And I'm just looking for your wisdom. I'm hoping I can get it. So I'm thankful for you, Jesus, that we have it. Thankful that you are God's revelation to us, communication to us, that your presence gives us God's wisdom. Help us learn how to walk with you, to keep in step with you in every way. Lord, teach us how to rely on you from the get-go, not just when we're stuck. You're so good, Jesus, and we're so thankful for you. I pray these things in your name.